everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And today, very exciting, we're celebrating 25 years of 10 Things I Hate About You, iconic teen rom-com. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and I have with me my fellow film critic friend, Patrick Beatty is here. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about this fun movie with me.
Rachel, it's been so long.
I know.
I'm so happy. It's so hot in Utah.
Oh my
So if you
gosh.
see me sweating, it's not just because we're talking about Heath Ledger. It's because it's very hot down here.
Yeah. It's been the perfect time to have Christmas in July because
Mm.
we need all of those winter vibes.
Yep, Hallmark, come down Second Street.
Yeah,
Let's film some fun.
yeah. And you've been on Hallmarkies podcast at least one other time, but it's been a bit. So why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So if you're local to Utah, I'm the film critic for ABC4. If you aren't local, I do a lot of reviews on patrickbeattyreviews.com. I've got a review segment, See It or Skip It. That's kind of my big review thing. I've been doing this for probably around 10 years come next August. So it's been a long journey, but it's been really fun. And I got to meet great people like Rachel who brought me into the fold. And we've been talking about what was the last thing we talked about, Rachel? Do you
I
remember?
think you were on for a Christmas wrap up, like
That or like a
a
there was a
couple.
presidential episode I think
Oh
we
yeah,
did.
American President. That's
Yeah, I think
right.
that was it,
Yeah.
the American president. So
Yeah,
that's a
that was a
horrible
fun
timing.
episode. I enjoyed that. Yeah, we talked about the
Mm-mm.
American president. You're right. And I do think you were on for one because remember we talked about the weed movie,
The weed movie.
the Christmas movie or about
Oh
getting
yeah,
high. Yeah.
what an awful movie.
It's
Oh,
that good.
oh, that was the one with oh, what's his name? That's you're gonna get that a
Yeah.
lot this podcast. A lot of oh, who is that person that I'm talking? Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a ridiculous movie that it just had it was like somebody that had never smoked before wrote about smoking.
Well, sometimes what you have happen with sometimes it's like people are so trying so hard to not be Hallmark that they overcorrect almost, and it
Mm,
becomes kind of not funny because they're trying. It just feels a little try hard, as opposed to
right,
like coming from an authentic place of comedy.
right.
And so,
Was
so
it Tom
so
Arnold? I think it was Tom
oh,
Arnold.
you're right. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
You're
Oh
right.
my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah, I am so glad to be here to talk. Like you picked the perfect person to talk about 10 things I hate
Yes.
about you
All
because
right.
real talk, this was from the day that I saw it when I was young. That's how I thought high school and middle school was going to be.
Yeah.
Like just that I thought we were going to have a high school by the bay. I was going to that we were going to have these awesome dances and there'd be drama
Yeah.
throughout. And with Heath Ledger's character's name being Patrick, it just made me love it even more.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm a bit older than you, I think. And so this came out when I graduated from high school a year early. So this would have come out my senior year of high school. And it came out my first year of college.
Mm.
So
What were
it
your
was,
thoughts then? So wait, you graduated a year early?
I did, yeah. I
So did my
graduated a year early.
wife. You
Yeah,
smarties.
my actually everybody in my whole family has had like alternative education journeys. Like none of us took like the normal track. But for me, my family moved my senior year of high school that summer before, and I was like, I don't want to go to a whole new high school for 1 year. That's stupid.
Hmm.
And so I went to community college instead, and
Oh wow.
yeah, so I graduated a year. I mean, I did technically graduate, but I was finished high school in '98,
How do
and
I keep hanging out with such smart women? That's cool.
oh,
I'm like
thank you.
the pug of the group.
My sister, she did homeschool, and then she graduated or got her GED or whatever at 16, and she started BYU at 16. So
Oh
it's
wow.
yeah.
Jeez.
But
That's a tough freshman year.
yeah, but we had so much fun. We had so much fun together, but during this time of the late 90s, there were tons of movies like this. I was watching the Siskel and it was Siskel and Ebert, but he had a guest. It was Ebert's show, but he had a guest
Mm.
co-host, whatever, because Gene had passed away, and but they were all saying, "Oh, another movie like this," because there really were a lot. There were like "Can't Hardly Wait," "10 Things I Hate About You," "Never Been Kissed,"
Hmm.
"She's All That."
Right. And it
Um,
only got more raunchier as we moved into the 2000s.
that's true. You had something like American Pie, things like there
The
were
New
a
Guy.
ton of high school comedies during those like from like 97 to 2000. It was
Hmm.
a big thing. And this was definitely one of the most, successful, one of the most popular ones. And it certainly introduced us to tons of, talent that we would then see in later movies going forward. So that's fun.
Right.
And it was also kind of a thing during that era of taking the classic story, whether it's Emma and Clueless, or here taking Tammy the Shrew, making it 10 Things I Hate About You. There were a number of kind of projects like that, kind of a modern spin on a classic property.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's funny because you watch these movies and you just think like, either was I just never invited to, was I just not part of the cool group, or was because I never, you see these insane parties, you see these kind of things,
Right.
and it's just like that. It just doesn't exist. I don't
But here's the
think.
thing, though. Bogey Lowenstein did not know that party was about to
Yeah,
happen
that's
to him.
true.
They
That's
threw
true.
flyers. The thing that I know is not real is throwing flyers down a stairwell and everyone being like, "Oh, okay," and then
Yeah,
going to that. That's just not the case. But Bowie Lowenstein, that poor guy,
I
just wanted
know.
to have a simple golf
That's
club,
true.
and just because he didn't invite one person, which funny enough, Michael, if you think about Taming of the Shrew, you just mentioned it.
Hmm.
There's Shakespeare throughout this movie. Like they are
Hmm.
referencing it all the time because that's the girl and the side B story that he's trying to get.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true. I mean, you have all of the names, and you have Padua High School. You
Yep.
have, you've got the Bianca and Kat, and well, of course this would we would get Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. We would have Gabrielle Union has a small
Hmm.
role. So it really did have an incredible cast.
So incredible. In fact, the mere fact that we have three actors in this that have been in Chris Nolan films
Mm.
just stands to reason that the casting director for this, I want to look up who this person is because my goodness, they picked some of the best Gail Goldberg, Donna Morong, and Marcia Ross.
Yeah, they crushed it with
Way
the
to go.
casting.
Like
Yeah.
I would love to see what other work they've done because they picked the greatest. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt is just adorable in this
Yeah, he
movie.
really is. He was so good at that in that era of the like hot nerd.
Yep,
He made
exactly.
it the hot nerd. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. Overall, I mean, what do you think of this movie? Do you think it holds up well? How do you feel?
Totally. In fact, before you had brought this up for me to come on and talk about it, I had seen it maybe about 2, 3 weeks before. And it was
Oh,
just
yeah.
something that I wanted to put on while I was editing in the background, and I stopped editing because I was like, I love this. Like, there's so many moments to me that like the Bogey Lowenstein one, that's like the big party thing, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a but the I think the scene that I have always loved. Actually, there's two. They both involve Heath Ledger and Kat Stratford, Julie Style. The paintball scene is incredible. And I love the "You're Just Too Good to Be True" song scene,
Yeah.
like the marching band scene. That it just, I wanted to be as cool as Patrick Verona, like so much, but I just did not have the hair for it,
Yeah. Yeah.
or the charming
I mean,
smile.
it's amazing that I like this movie as much as I do because the like sullen, angsty teen trope is not for me. I usually
Mm,
do not like that kind of character. And so, but I think it helps with Julie Stiles' performance because it is an ensemble. And so
mhm.
it's not overbearing. You don't have too much of it. In some ways it's kind of like a somewhat similar portrayal in Juno. She's also kind of, but I love that movie, and I love this where there's enough of sort of endearing kind of moments that you feel for the character, and that it's just not one of those kinds of performance. It works.
Right. Well, and it's a smart story when you break it down. Like compared to other teen movies that we've seen, I feel like this one is one of the better written films.
Mm-hmm.
And all the supporting characters all have something unique that I love about them. I
Mm-hmm.
love that the dad, Walter Stratford, is a gynecologist. He's a no OBG. He's
Yeah,
something
OBGYN. I get a
OBGYN.
little, I feel like there's a little too much of him though. I feel
Mm.
like that joke goes
But he's
I'm
definitely
like,
the traditional. I need to keep my daughters as safe as
yeah.
humanly possible, to the point where I will make them wear a pregnancy vest to show them the ramifications of what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then
There's
how do
some
you get
there's
Julia Stiles from that? I don't know. How do you get Kat from that? And Allison Janney as Miss Perky
oh
is
yeah.
so good.
I love Allison
Her
Janney so
memoir.
much. So yeah,
Yep.
Allison Janney is Miss Perky is her name. And she is full-time guidance counselor, I guess, part-time erotic novelist.
Yep. Yep. Who's taking lines from from the
Yeah,
students that come in.
which is really funny.
Dangling participle. One of the funniest.
Yeah, and if people are in Utah right now, it's at the Shakespeare Festival down in Cedar. They're doing Taming of the Shrew. So
Oh.
if you get down there, you get a chance because it's a professional equity company, a Tony
Hmm.
Award winning. So if you want to see a really good version of Taming of the Shrew, you get a chance to do it. And there are definitely, of course, outdated parts of Taming of the Shrew. So it's kind of interesting to then take it and sort of modernize it in a 1999 setting. And I think it holds up a lot better than some of the other teen comedies that like She's All that thing does not hold up in my
Yeah.
opinion. That movie, I watched it when they had that horrible sequel
Hmm.
on Netflix, and it was like, this thing is mean. This thing is
Right.
mean spirited. Like especially the Paul Walker character in that movie
Yep.
is really, I don't know. Like it's just not very funny to me, and this holds up, I think, way better than that.
Right. Well, and if you were to talk about the opposite character of this with Andrew Keegan playing Joey Donner, we can talk about his cult too, which I think the way that some of these actors moved on from that. Do you know about what happened to Andrew Keegan after
No.
he started a cult?
Oh, he did.
He started a religious cult that
Is he in that Nexium thing or
No, it's not.
no?
I think he started it himself, but I don't remember where I had seen this, but it was a full documentary about where he had gone from this point, and that was fascinating. I think
Oh.
what 10 Things does is that they're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and they're also not trying to be mean-spirited like with She's All That. I think they're just trying to tell a good story more than anything. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to talk about the difference between Patrick and Kat versus Bianca and Cameron, and
Mm-hmm.
how they're courting both of the Stratford sisters and their approaches to it, because I
Yeah.
think it's very realistic, but one is a lot whinier than the other one. Like
Mm-hmm.
one you could probably call an incel in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways. Like that's probably the thing that got a little dated to me, is that part where after the party, the bogey one, and Bianca and Cameron are just sitting there, and he's like, "I've done so much for you. I'm such a nice guy." I was like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, that's so cringy that you're saying." You,
Yeah. Yeah. But we
you
also
want
have
Patrick
to
just buys her love, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to remember though that these are high school students who say cringy things. So in a way,
Hmm.
that's kind of authentic,
Yeah.
that he would say that. But yeah, I mean, he is lying to her. So he's not innocent in this whole thing. That's for
No.
sure.
No, and that's the whole crux of this is they're trying to get the bad boy to go for the bad
Hmm.
girl.
Yeah. Well, so he gets in. So we get Cameron has arrived at the school, and Michael introduces him to everybody, and he says, "You've got the basic beautiful people. Unless they talk
Love it.
first, don't bother. The coffee kids, the white Rastas, the cowboys, the future, and the future
Yep.
MPAs."
What was the thing with the Cowboys? The closest they've ever come to a cow is TJI Fridays or
They're
something like
McDonald's.
that. Is McDonald's? Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that this is quite as funny as the introductory when Cher is introducing Ty
Mm,
to the high school. I think that one is a little bit funnier. I
hmm.
think I mean, it's hard because Clueless came out my freshman year of high school, so it was like very iconic for me. And whereas this is just like a few years later, but that if I do think that Amy Heckerling, their script there in Clueless is just like slightly funnier
Hmm.
than this. But I think what's interesting about Clueless too is that she manages to take pretty unlikable characters in Cher and Dion and make you root for them.
Hmm.
I mean, they're rich, they're snobby, they're a little bit clueless,
Hmm.
but they make them endearing. But this you, I don't
What I
know.
love about Michael's character is that he is so like full of himself at the beginning because he wants to put on a good first impression for Cameron more than anything. Is that
Mm-hmm.
he's excited to introduce everybody, but as he's doing it, everybody's like, "Get bent!" Like the
Yeah,
minute he walks past, they're like,
yeah,
"You are the worst, Michael. We're so sick of you."
yeah.
But
Well, and
they stay close.
he sees Bianca and like falls immediately. Cameron, like there's no doubt at all.
Yep, yep. Simps pretty hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
And
immediately
then
Michael's like, not a good idea. I wonder why he's so quick to that. Is it fear of Joey and what he would do in that
uh-huh.
situation? And he's like, I've already been down this road with the popular people in my group, and I don't want to go down that with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he's probably just like hoping that he can kind of be the first one so that he can be friends,
Yep.
with him. But I do love Daryl Mitchell as Mr. Morgan. I think he's very funny in this
Oh, yeah.
thing, like trying to teach them Shakespeare and
I think he's a genuinely bad teacher, though. Like he really just shuts down anybody that's even curious about his work, his
he's
lessons.
definitely very jaded.
Yeah, like
I think
even
it's
if it's
very
like, I
funny.
love your lesson, I think it's great. He will kick you out of the class. It's so good.
Yes. There's this whole scene that when we get introduced to Kat, she says,
Mm,
what about our oppressive patriarchal values that dictate our education? And I think the reason why she works when a lot of times these angsty teenagers don't work for me is that there's always a sense of feeling like she's just saying what everybody wants her to say, like what everyone expects of her to say. And then the script does call her out on that later on,
hmm.
that you're not what I expected or what people think. Because that is totally the kind of thing a poser teenager that thinks they're being all, empowered or whatever would say. They would say this as opposed to like a real conversation wanting to talk,
Right. Well, and the
you know?
difference between Kat and Bianca, as far as just characters, Kat is
Mm-hmm.
so much more thoughtful on the surface, right? She's not interested in anything that feels surface level, that feels like we're only talking about brand named shoes or outfits that we love. She's much more in the we're gonna just walk around and trash everybody around us. Like I judge every single thing about this school. While Bianca is pretty much what you're saying, that superficial type of character that it takes up until Cameron and her have that interaction at Bogey's to realize, okay, she does have more to her than that. Like
But
she's
I
more
would say
interesting.
that in some ways the cat is equally, if not more, superficial. It's just with a feminist skin over it.
Yeah,
Like
that's
she's
very
just
interesting.
saying the what everybody kind of expects her to say. And it's not until they have that conversation in the bedroom where she's talking to her sister about her first time
Mm.
and why she wanted to protect her. That's really like the first time in the script that we get like a real authentic moment from Kat. Before that, it's all kind of like she's reading from the feminist playbook of 1999,
Yeah. Well, and
you
they
know?
don't have very many. They don't have those conversations in this. It almost feels like they aren't sisters in a lot of ways because of how much they put a mask on
Like in
for
some
each
ways,
other.
I think Bianca is actually more authentic of a character in these early scenes because she's just being, she's just, oh, I want to experience that. I want to experience that. I want to, like
Mm.
and whereas like Kat is kind of trying to fit this sort of archetype of what she thinks a feminist woman is,
But
you
I
know?
do think she is feminist at the end because you look at the her art that she loves, the music that she loves, her passions, they
Yeah.
still fall in line with that. I just think she just has such a front to hide that she is
Yeah.
can
It's like
be
there's this,
emotional.
yeah, like this, like I say, sort of a feminist skin over like who because nobody talks in like talking points. Like everybody has nuances and back and forth and we want to have like a real conversation with people, but she's just kind of put this armor on of and I mean it is pretty like your classic classic women's studies things. He's reading the bell jar and
Hmm.
feminine mystique, and stuff like that. Like,
And I wonder if a part
okay.
of it is just like kind of the terror of being in high school. Because to me, there is a real credible fear of being around all these different
Yeah.
cliques and not knowing if you fit in or not even wanting to fit in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And the popular people don't have to worry about that
Yeah.
because they're at the top.
Yeah, what were you? What if you were in a group in high school? Would you have one that you were kind of
I,
more in?
I know exactly where I was. I know exactly what type of person I was the band geek. I was the
See, I
band
was
geek slash
drama,
the
drama
theater.
geek, drama
I was a
geek.
mix between band and drama. Um, and I include band as far as like choir and singing. Like I was definitely all about the arts, and everything else was just a side thing. I tried doing sports, and like when I lived in Wyoming, sports were free. You didn't
Hmm.
have to like pay a fee to get your equipment and all that stuff. So once that happened, I went, oh, that's not worth it. I don't want to do that anymore. But band was sadly the biggest one.
Yeah, I was drama geek. I did do the swim team, and I got my lifeguard certification, which was very
Were
exciting.
you a lifeguard too, Rachel?
I was, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Indoor pool or outdoor pool?
Well, I never actually worked as a lifeguard, but I did get my
No?
certification. Yeah, I know. But it would have been for like pool wasn't certification at the time. But
Hmm.
it was a pretty big deal. I mean, to get that certification, I've always been a bigger girl, and so to like do all of the things that required to do was a pretty big deal at the time.
What made you want
Uh,
to do that? Because I only did it because I needed a job.
and because I just wanted to prove that I could do it, I think, at the time. And
That's
I
awesome.
love being in the water. It's
Hmm.
so funny because in a lot of ways I was very what do you say? Like uninhibited. That a lot of things that teenagers feel a lot of self-consciousness about, like for whatever reason I didn't.
Hmm.
And because I took aquatics class every day. I would get into swimsuit at school,
Right.
and then I'd walk around with wet hair the whole day, and just things like that I think some people might find awkward or uncomfortable. I don't know. I was just somewhat oblivious to that kind of awkwardness. I don't know why, but but
You were comfortable. You're
yeah,
comfortable in
and
your own.
I do love being in the water, and
Hmm.
I always have my whole life. And so that was very exciting for me. But anyway, I was definitely, as far as my fandom or whatever, my clique, as far as my clique would have been the drama geeks.
Oh, I wish we were in high school together. We could have had a 10 Things I Hate About You moment.
Yeah. But I just think that Mr. Morgan's really funny when he's like, someday you're going to get me slapped and I'm not going to do a thing to stop it.
Pipe down, Chachi.
Yeah. Why can't they buy a book written by a black man?
And then the Ross does, yeah, man.
Don't even get started with you.
See, that's why the show is so good. It's endlessly
it's
quotable. Like, there's just so much you could quote about it.
Yeah.
And that's the first interaction we get between, kind of the first interaction. You get a little snippet of it between Kat and Joey, and that dynamic is very interesting throughout the movie until that moment with her and Bianca.
Yeah. So basically, they get the idea that they are going to convince Joey to take out that what they're going to do is they're going to convince Joey to basically be their money man to make a bet with Patrick that Patrick will, it gets all very convoluted, but that Patrick
Joey's very dumb. They think that Joey's dumb enough that they can play him as a pawn.
And they
so
do
that
successfully.
Cameron can swoop in.
Basically. I mean, so then Joey goes and makes a bet with Patrick. And I mean, this is a risky move going from, so Cameron's hoping that Joey will make the bet with Patrick, and then Patrick will take out Kat. So therefore, then Cameron can then take out Bianca. But obviously, they're not thinking of the fact that then Joey is going to want to take out Bianca.
Right.
They're just using him as this weird middleman.
And nobody's thinking about what the girls want either. Let's point that out.
True.
This is all Michael's idea, by the way. Michael's like, I've got the perfect plan. We're gonna get this dummy to go and convince this horrifying person that we think will work with Kat because she's also horrifying. I don't know.
Yeah, because Michael hates Bianca. Michael says that she is what we'll spend the rest of our lives not having.
Ooh, and that's very incel-y. If that's not an incel, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
But that interaction between Joey and Patrick for the first time, where he's like, I had some great duck the other day.
Yeah.
What were the rumors that were? The one is that he ate a live duck once.
Yeah, and then he was in San Quentin.
Yeah, he was in
prison.
He went to prison.
Yes.
And then they have that. Patrick immediately sees right through the situation, at least with Joey, and just starts milking him for money.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I can take this idiot's money.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so you do get one of, I think, the most iconic lines in the whole movie is when Bianca says, I know you can be overwhelmed and underwhelmed. Can you be just whelmed? And Chastity says, I think you can in Europe.
Chastity is the worst friend of all time.
She's terrible.
She's genuinely
that was a funny
horrible.
line, I think.
It was really good.
I think you can in Europe. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Factor Meals. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/hallmarkies50 and use code hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code hallmarkies50 at factormeals.com/hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Definitely check out Factor Meals. We know you'll love them. That's good. It's a very funny movie.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty edgy for PG-13. This must have just been right on the edge.
Mm-hmm. I think because they didn't really emphasize too much of the sexual content. It was much more heartwarming, romantic.
Yeah, but there's still, I mean, like I said, I bet you it was right on the edge for the censors. I mean, with the amount of language, with them like drawing on his face, you know, and things like that. I mean, there's quite a bit, and so I bet you they were riding that line with the MPAA.
Do you think there could be another cut that had
I bet
just a little too much?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I really wouldn't. But you know, I don't know. That's my guess.
Right. Well, and Patrick's first interaction with Kat, right? I think it's while she's playing soccer.
Uh-huh.
And he first line, "Hey girly." Whoa. It's the worst thing.
So Patrick's trying to make a move, but she's not wanting anything to do with it. At one point, she drills through the book, you know, and gets. And,
well, that's when Michael.
Patrick does that. Patrick drills through the book
because at that point, Patrick doesn't know about Cameron and Michael as far as this whole deal goes, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And so they see what happens between Kat and Patrick, and they're like, we got to step in and kind of help lead Patrick to make sure that this works out for him. So they show up for the first time, and he's in woodshop class.
Yeah, and he drills through their book.
As they're trying to talk to him, and they just look down and like, oh no. But once they realize that, they're basically his coach to help get Kat.
And then she crashes into Joey's car. I don't think that she would do this because then she's going to have to deal with all of this with her dad. So I don't think that, I mean, it's kind of a funny scene, but I don't think that she would do that because it would just be more of a hassle.
I do believe it in the sense that what he did to her, like there is an argument to be made that maybe she's not always someone that acts irrationally, but this guy particularly did something to where maybe it's just like, I don't care anymore.
And then her dad, my insurance doesn't cover PMS.
Oof.
Funny. That's a funny line. And so then Patrick says, I need more. Because he's seeing her and he's like, oh, this is going to be more of a challenge.
He's horrified. Yep. During that, here's what the B story. Would you consider Patrick and Kat are the A story, and Cameron and Bianca are kind of A, but also B in a lot of ways?
Yeah, and then there's also like a couple other little stories, like you have Mandela and Michael, their little thing, and so there's a couple other
teenage
little
drama
characters. I would say that if I'm sure that I would think that Julia Stiles was number 1 on the call sheet, and then Heath Ledger, and then what's her name who played Bia?
That would be Larissa
Olenek. Yeah, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I would guess that that's the call sheet on it. Yeah. So
that side story between Cameron and Bianca is he thinks that he can get in by teaching her French because she's not good at French. So he doesn't know French,
which is cute,
but he can learn it.
Yeah, that was funny. I learned French from you. For you.
Yeah. But that progress is going to be going on the side while his main focus is making sure Patrick stops smoking. That's a big thing that they're like, and that must be when they're like, we got to make sure kids aren't doing this kind of stuff. Right?
Well, I mean, it is wild to think that like in 1999, in the stadium. He pulls out a cigarette. He's like, that's wild. I mean, you think you couldn't do that. You would have to be way far away now.
Well, you don't have to anymore because you have vape.
I guess. But when
All the
I
kids are
was in
vaping.
when I was in high school, there was a park across the street that's where everybody went to smoke.
Okay.
When I was in high school, in Middletown High School in Maryland.
Mhm.
And it was so stupid though. And this is why I could never go back to high school. Oh my gosh, like never been kissed is like a nightmare for me. Like the idea of going back to high school. And I didn't even hate high school, but it was just stuff like this is so stupid. In my high school, they were scared that people were going to smoke in the bathrooms. And so they only had during the entire lunch period, which was like a lot of the day, because there were multiple sessions, of lunch. They only had one bathroom open in the high school by the cafeteria, and they had teachers in front of it inspecting
Oh,
and you make sure you had your pass and everything. I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like,
mhm.
no
What?
wonder, like, don't be surprised when teenagers are angsty when you show so little faith and trust in them when they're belligerent because you don't that you're
Right.
monitoring. When you don't respect teenagers enough to allow them to go to the bathroom when and where they want, like you don't trust them to not smoke in the bathroom. It's so stupid. And no wonder they misbehave because the way people treat them.
Right. Well, and
It's so
you were in high
stupid.
school during like the emergence of pocket cell phones, right?
No,
Like,
well, I would have been just before that. I got my
okay.
first cell phone in 2001.
Okay.
And I was pretty early on. It was a cricket phone,
Hmm.
I don't know if it was
It
a
wasn't the
green
Nokia
cricket phone. It was
brick.
very exciting.
Mm,
I mean, they had like in Clueless, they have a cell phone in there, so they did exist. And that
right.
was 96. They did exist, but not everybody, not teenagers for sure.
Right.
And so I was just before that, and I'm so glad because I think about like if you're a teen now, I can't imagine what it must be like to always know that you could be photographed at any moment at any time. And not only
Yeah.
that could be over everywhere. I mean, when I was in high school, my best friend, one day she walked through the senior hallway with her skirt tucked into her backpack. So she, like, and
Hmm.
it was embarrassing,
But a simple
and
mistake.
it was embarrassing, but we kind of laughed, like, oh, that's one of those
Right.
things. But now it would be a billion times worse because there would be pictures all over everywhere, and
You'd be
everybody would be,
trending.
and it would last forever. It wouldn't just be this, oh, that was a funny story, something that happened. And I just can't imagine what that would be like.
I didn't think
Rough.
I was gonna tell you this story, Rachel. Can I tell you a weird story as a
Sure.
full side tangent? So
Yeah.
this was my 10 things I hate about you thing that I did,
Uh-huh.
okay? During I think it was senior year, junior year, we were doing our high school who's running for office for class president and secretary and all that stuff. And it was always the popular people. Like nobody ever had a shot unless you were popular. So I don't know why. I think it was just because I thought it would be funny and I figured out how to use a computer. I created a campaign for a fake student named Larry.
Oh my gosh.
And Larry, not only was he an expert at campaigning and getting the word out with the flyers, I took inspiration from 10 Things with putting out flyers, but not only that, I started slam campaigns against all of the other candidates. But it was all with like simple, weird things where it's like, Scott Heinrich is afraid of Pikachu, vote for Larry. Or like, uh,
What?
yeah, like
Oh
just
my gosh, Patrick, you've got to write this as a screenplay.
it was the weird, it was, and
I'm
I didn't get caught.
serious.
I actually went in and said, okay, I'm Larry, because the candidates were very upset about this. Like they were like, I don't know who this is. I don't know why they're saying I'm scarier than an orc from Lord of the Rings. This doesn't make any sense. So
I'm
finally,
telling you, I'm not even kidding. You should write this as a screenplay. It would be
um,
so good.
My ADHD would take me away the minute I put down the first sentence.
Oh
But
my gosh.
to your point, if there were cell phones out there, I probably would have gotten caught. Like
Hmm.
there's a real chance, especially with cell phones
Yeah.
today. Back then
But
we had flip phones, we had razors, we had all those,
yeah.
but you get like a 3 megabit photo out of that.
Yeah. Well, you know what's also interesting though? I don't know if you ever saw this movie, The Duff. It was a couple of
Ooh,
years ago, The Duff.
yeah, it sounds familiar.
It's like cute enough. It's a cute movie. But one thing that was really interesting to me, this was probably when was The Duff? Like 2016, maybe something like that. 2015.
Mm.
So it
I'm
was
gonna look this up real quick.
9 years ago. But anyway, what was interesting is there's a whole scene in The Duff where she gets shamed through the whole school.
Oh, Mae
And what
Whitman.
yeah. And what was interesting about the movie to me is that the attitude of all of the teenage characters was just like, it happens to all of us, just brush it off. No big deal.
Mhm.
And I thought that was very interesting because like if something like that had happened back in 1999, when I was going to high school, I would have been devastated, to be publicly shamed like that.
Oh yeah.
But so I was talking because I have a sister that's 18 years younger than me. And I was talking to her and I said, is that kind of the way people talk about it? That I was like, it's just not like as I guess you just become kind of amalgamated to the situation that you're in. Right. And,
Right.
and she was like, yeah, it's just really not like, yeah, she's like, that's true. And then, so I guess that the teens today have developed a pretty thick skin often for
Right.
these situations. So it's just interesting to look at teens 25 years ago versus teens now, and maybe even it might even be different than 2015. I'm sure it is, but
Mhm.
I don't
I
know.
can go a step
I thought
further.
that
Like
was
there's
interesting.
how they're represented in entertainment. Like
Yeah, it's
kids
true.
today are like Euphoria. It's like that is crazy if that is what your high school experience is like.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then we got the big party, Bogey's party.
Mm.
Got that.
And then we get that
And
awesome montage of them throwing the flyers
the
down the
flyers.
stairwell and
Yeah.
that cool rotating shot going down. I love some of those moments in this where they really make a moment about we're going to be doing this cool thing when realistically that probably wouldn't have happened the way that they're making it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you got to tell them, you got to have a movie, you got to have and of
It's
course,
all revenge for Bogey.
everything all leads up to the prom, which was the thing in the movies of this era. She's all that, or drive me crazy, or never been kissed. It's always about the prom. And I was thinking, I never went to prom. I was going to go. I didn't have a date, but I was going to go with just friends or whatever.
Right.
But I had my appendix taken out the weekend of prom.
No. Oh,
So I never went to prom because then my family moved, so I wasn't there for my senior year. And it's like, I don't know how I turned into a functioning adult. So they make it seem like it's so important in these movies. You got to go to prom. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Rachel Fordham and her new novel, Beyond Ivy Walls. Looking to escape into a world of romance and history? Pick up a Rachel Fordham novel today. These heartwarming tales whisk you away to simpler times. They're full of heart and always end with a sigh-worthy happily ever after. Pick up her latest, Beyond Ivy Walls, and discover why readers are always hungry for more. Beyond Ivy Walls, in Iowa, 1903, all of Monticello believes Otis Taylor has been away fostering his musical genius, but the truth is that his father exiled him long ago, rejecting Otis's appearance and the scars that came with it. Now that he is the last living Taylor, Otis has covertly returned to settle his family's affair and rid himself of his past for good. At 23 years old, Sadie West left her family farm and found employment at the Hogue Feather Duster Factory. It isn't a romantic job, but she's hardly had a glimmer of romance since her beau went off to college, leaving her with no promise of a future together. Desperate to save money and help her family make ends meet, she trespasses and finds shelter in an abandoned building and is thrown in the path of the town's mysterious bachelor. Otis' wounds are deep, but as Sadie's friendship with him grows, she begins to fall for the man beneath the mask. So pick up Beyond Ivy Walls today, wherever you purchase your books, or check out Rachel Fordham's website at rachelfordham.com to learn more. And you can use the affiliate link below.
there's a couple important points to this. The first is when we see Kat finally let loose a little bit. She's drinking heavily at this point, much like all of these parties are going. And you see Joey come up to Patrick, and he's like, "How did you get her to be normal?" And then it cuts to her on the table, literally, prophetically, I would even say, calling her "Save the Last Dance" moment, where she starts dancing at top of the table. And you're like, some producer saw that and was like, she's our gal. We're gonna put her in this. And that's where Patrick is kind of the savior, because he sees, okay, he kind of is looking at it as like, this could be a viral moment. Everyone's going to talk about this. I got to get her out of this situation.
Yeah. And he is the good guy because
speech.
he takes her home, and she's got his concussion. She throws up on him.
Well, and that's where he says, you're not as hateful as everybody says you are. And then she says, well, you're not as gross as people say you are.
But then she leans in, and he doesn't kiss her, and she gets really offended by it.
And then vomits everywhere. Which maybe he saw her like have a little bit of a, that thing where you're like, uh-oh, it hit the top of your throat. It's not quite there yet. But he takes her home. Bianca is now unable to get a ride. And this is where Chastity's the worst friend ever. Because out of nowhere, she's just like, you go do whatever you're going to do. I'm hanging out with Joey and all of the preppy. And so she has to walk home until she has to walk home until she asks Cameron for a ride. And that's where Cameron
feels. And this is when Cameron gets kind of pissy at her, and he says, just because you're beautiful doesn't mean you can treat people however you want.
I learned French for you.
I learned French for you.
And she shuts him up with a kiss.
Yeah.
And what's he say what's his line? And I'm back in the game.
Yeah. And this is when the next day we have Mr. Morgan teach him Sonic 141. And it is funny.
Goes full Hamilton.
Yeah. When Kat's like, I think it's a great assignment. He's like, get out of my classroom.
You're messing with me, right?
Really funny. I think he did a lot with a small role. He is very funny in that. And of course, Sonnet 141 is one of the most beautiful passages ever written. And then it says, in faith, I do not love thee with mine eyes, for they in thee a thousand errors note, but 'tis my heart that loves what they despise, who in despite of view is pleased to dote. Nor are mine ears that with thy tongue's tune delighted, nor tender feeling to base touches prone, nor taste nor smell desire to be invited to any sensual feast with thee alone. But my 5 wits nor my 5 senses can dissuade one foolish heart from serving thee, who leaves unswayed the likeness of a man, thy proud heart's slave and vessel wretch to be. Only my plague thus far I count my gain, that she that makes me sin awards me pain. Very beautiful. I do not love thee with that, with mine eyes. And it's a lot of fun. Then so Kat starts thinking about this and what she's going to do. And it's just
now, is this where the paintball scene happened? No,
it's a little bit. It's close, but
because she gets out of detention because he puts her in detention for this.
Michael and Mandela, they have their things, and she says she hates him with the fire of 1,000 suns.
Yes. Yep.
And we also get Bianca shooting the teacher with the arrow.
Right. Yep, that's a great sequence.
You see the PE teacher.
Yep, because Joey's trying to convince her for prom, right?
You probably shouldn't be giving high school students weapons.
No, not at all. And Bianca uses the soccer ball as a weapon. Nearly takes his head off when she kicks it. But I think that Joey's asking her about prom, and she's now undecided. Like, that was the for sure thing. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to take any more.
And so then Joey gives Patrick more money to take Kat to prom. And we find out that Kat wants a guitar. She wants this electric guitar.
Yep, he spots her. And which is also, what are you doing? Why are you following her?
Yeah. But this is
That's out of school.
when we get our iconic can't take my eyes off you, Frankie Valli
Yes.
scene where Heath Ledger is singing the song on the bleachers, and for her to try to make up for, since she's upset with him for not kissing her.
Nobody
It was
will ever be as
very,
cool as
yeah,
Patrick Verona doing Can't Take My Eyes Off of You on the bleachers.
I agree. Yeah,
Nobody
man.
can. It's so it's so charismatic. It's so heartfelt. You can like because he doesn't do this stuff. Like he's not somebody to be outwardly showing of emotion and passion. And I don't think she's one to want that
And
to
I think
even
that's
like
why it works
experience
so
it.
well. It's like a vulnerable but grand gesture.
Yeah, and that that Humphrey Bogart chase scene between him and the security that show up on the bleachers trying to get him to stop because he's taking over the PA. And how did he coordinate the marching band?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it was a lot.
it's so good though, and
Yeah.
she's totally smitten.
And this is when we get her flashing the detention teacher, which was funny, very
Right,
1989.
right. Yep, that's well because he's in detention and she's
Hmm.
gonna break him out. But
Yeah.
the only way to do that, I love that quick scene where the the guy is just creepy, the teacher, and he's like, "I'm confiscating this," and like
Yeah.
stealing stuff, and then like slowly picks up a bag of Doritos, and he's like, "This too." Like
This is
that would be
when
me if I was a teacher.
Yeah, this is when we get the paintball scene. And I have always wanted to go to a paintball place like this.
Mm.
Because you see it with the guns, the paintball guns, but that's no fun because it hurts
Yeah, these are just
really bad.
balloons, like
These
paint
are,
balloons.
yeah, you're like throwing it. I'm like, that's so much better. Why have I never seen that anywhere? I've never seen this.
And it's right off the bay. So you've got this beautiful scenery. There's
Yeah.
haystacks everywhere. Literally, they're laying in hay at a certain point. And just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I was always a romantic as a kid. Like if
Mhm.
I wanted a girlfriend, I wanted to be as romantic as possible. I think that didn't work in a lot of situations because it's just like this guy's creepy or weird or whatever. But
Yeah.
it when he whips off his glasses, right? And like kind of touches her face to give her that first kiss. Every time
Yeah.
I'm like,
It was
man,
really good.
this is
Yeah.
this is love. This is peak love.
When I guess so the this whole thing was filmed in Tacoma, Washington,
Hmm.
and the high school is called Stadium High School,
Yep.
which is interesting.
I
Yeah.
looked that up. I wanted to know where that
Hmm.
school was. I wanted to transfer.
Yeah. And it says for the scene where Patrick dances on the high school bleachers, Ledger took inspiration from Showgirls and Fred Astaire. Which makes
What a
sense.
combo.
Yeah.
I don't know where the showgirls comes in, but okay.
Yeah. So then we get him asking her to prom, and she's like, "Why are you pushing this?"
Hmm.
And so he's just trying to, trying to get her to go, and then we have this scene
He
between
gets
Kat.
defensive too. And he's
Yeah.
like, if you don't want to go, it's fine. He pulls out a cigarette because now he's stressed, and it kind of is breaking the facade a little bit.
Yeah. So then we have Kat and Bianca talking, and she tells her that Kat tells her that she was with Joey, ninth
Mhm.
grade.
Yep, she was assaulted by Joey.
Yeah. And then Bianca says, "It's not like I'm stupid enough to repeat your mistakes." Oh, that was, Ooh.
Like it's really poor sistering done by Bianca for not empathizing immediately and being like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that happened to you." But to get so immediately defensive about that, and she's not even a part of her doesn't really even care about Joey that much right now because she's wanting Cameron to ask her, and
Yeah.
he's too much of a coward to do it right now.
Well, she's just only thinking about herself and prom, and that she won't be able to go to prom if Kat doesn't go to prom.
Yeah.
And it is tough, but sometimes you are sort of selfish at that time. So there is something kind of authentic actually about it, though.
And when you're the
Yep.
younger sibling, I guess there is a little bit of like your gut reaction is, why are you doing this to me? Ugh, why
Yeah.
are you telling me this now when this is happening?
Yeah. So she agrees to go to prom, And I think her dress was fine, normal, Kat's dress, but I think Bianca's dress was so strange. A weird crop top.
Yep. Everybody's outfits are a little bit wonky in this.
Yeah, I guess it says that that costume designer Kim Tillman designed the original dresses for Olniak and Styles, as well as the period outfits for Pratt and Krumholtz. Union's snakeskin dress is Betsy Johnson design.
Well, in that side story, we didn't really talk about that too much. This is where the Shakespeare comes in because Michael is trying to woo Kat's friend, and he does that through poetry. And I think he gives her the dress, right?
He gives her, that dress, the Shakespeare dress. Yeah. And that's fun. That's fun. And so then we have, they have the live band at prom, including the band that she'd gone to the club earlier. And
Patrick, that man knows how to. If he needs to lay it on to get what he needs, he can get a marching band in like the span of 24 hours. He can get one of the biggest artists playing locally to show up for it.
He knows how to do a grand gesture. He really does.
I know. Money. He doesn't need money. He just has to throw in the charm, and I guess it works.
But what about you in prom? Did you go to prom?
Yep. Prom for me was always kind of, well, with Utah stuff, there was like 5 different proms every year. So there was like junior prom, there was Sadie Hawkins.
That's true. There's so many dances in Utah.
And it was fun, but there was always that pressure of like, I got to go ask somebody. Not only do I have to ask somebody, I have to do it in a creative, fun way. And not only that, but we have to plan a date before the thing where we have to like go and do it was way too much. Now
the
looking back,
proposals is ridiculous. I don't understand that. I don't like
when
it.
it was girls' choice, they always chose to glitter my cars and the stuff that's like, this isn't cute.
Oh no!
You just ruined my car. There will always be graffiti and glitter everywhere because of this.
Oh no! Yeah, like I went to homecoming. I never went to prom, but I did go to homecoming, and I asked my date to homecoming, and all I did he was in the lifeguarding class as well. And a friend of mine named Jim, and we were just talking, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing for homecoming? Are you busy that day?" Something like that. Nice. And he was like, "Oh, I'll check my calendar." And then I waited like 2 weeks, and he hadn't said anything, and so I was like, "This is awkward." and so I was like, "Did you check your calendar?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, totally, I'm going."
Nice.
I was like, "Well, that's nice. Thanks for letting me know."
Oh man!
But we had a really fun time. Yeah. And my mom made my dress, so that was fun.
Those things are always fun if you're just going with a friend. In my opinion,
no pressure.
If it's someone you like, it's harder to me because it's like, now you got to add the nerves to everything. The best one I had was just with a friend.
He was really excited because he got to drive his mom's Volkswagen. It was like
that was the best part.
It was very exciting for the date.
Yep, and the curfews.
Yeah.
Making sure you get her home by 10.
But really, and especially like I said, in these late 90s movies, they make prom seem like it is so important. Like it is such a big deal. And
did they have corsets? Do you remember if in 10 Things they had corsets and stuff?
I don't think anybody had corsets.
Because that was another big deal for ours, was like you had to buy a corset for the girl, and they had to buy
corsage. You mean a corsage?
Not a corset. That'd be so much worse. What an interesting prom that would be, right?
I was like, what?
That's Euphoria. That's a whole different. It's either Euphoria or Marie Antoinette style. I don't know which between those.
I mean, Jim did get me a corsage. Yeah,
corsage. Yes. What's the opposite for the guy?
Boutonniere.
Boutonniere. You see, that one sounds weirder than corset. But the boutonniere, I'd always get stabbed in the chest with. They never got it right for me.
But yeah, I had my appendix taken out for prom. So it's funny is that it was the weekend of the Seinfeld finale. I watched the Seinfeld finale in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And my appendix out.
And that probably made it even worse, right? You're like, that's how it ends. Oh.
It certainly made it more memorable. That's for sure.
It was all about nothing.
Yeah. But I really thought Bianca's dress was bizarre in this,
Yeah.
like this weird two-piece with her stomach showing. I don't know, midriff. It was very weird. But anyway, but then Joey shows up to also pick up Bianca. So there's some kind of miscommunication happening here, and then he gets really mad.
and Mr. Stratford, when he opens the door again and sees Joey and just slams it in his face.
Yeah.
I'm here to pick up Bianca.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it turns out Joey took Chastity.
Mm-hmm. Because Chastity is more than willing to throw her friend under the... Chastity's the worst.
Yeah.
No justice for her. I don't like her.
No.
The worst.
And she tells her that, oh, well, Joey was just going to try to nail you tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Because
she's the worst.
Yeah.
And that's where everything comes undone, because Joey's approaching Patrick and he's like, hey, the deal was that I was going to take Bianca out.
Yeah.
And now you've ruined it.
I didn't pay you to take out that girl.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Kat overhears it. And then Joey punches Cameron in the face, and then Bianca punches him.
Yep, because he called her a stupid bee, right?
What's that?
I think he calls like, now you're going to pay you and that stupid bee. And then that's when Bianca defends her sister and just decks him. That's for this. That's kind of the line that we've seen in many, many films. It's like, this is for me. This is for my brother. This is for my family. And that's for me. Like the last line.
Yeah. And so then we have Kat and Patrick confronting each other. And says, I didn't care about the money. I cared about you.
But tough sell at the moment.
Yeah,
Can't really have that conversation right there, dude. Mm-hmm. But what can he do? And
so then the next day we have she's going to Sarah Lawrence, and you also have Bianca and Cameron are going sailing, and that's kind of important because he says, "Were you ever really going to go sailing with me?" No, I just said it to, So she was just kind of playing a part too. And but now she's actually going sailing, so that like had some kind of meaning that she's kind of trying new things and growing as a person, Bianca.
Right. Well, and a little bit the Sarah Lawrence thing. That's a moment between Kat and Mr. Stratford where he's talking about her mother and how scared he was to raise them on his own after she passed away, and that's where there was so much reservations to, because in the beginning of the movie she gets accepted into the place. And he's like, I thought you were going to stay right near me because I need you right here with me. And he grows in that moment and says, you know what? I've just been doing this out of fear. I've only been protecting you guys because I'm afraid, and that's my insecurity. So you can go. Like, you can do it.
Yeah.
It is a little thing. He's the comic relief, but there's a little beauty in that moment. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, so then probably the most tender moment of the movie is the next day at school for this assignment that they've been working on. She reads her poem and it says, I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I hate the way you drive my car. I hate it when you stare. I hate your big, dumb combat boots and the way you read my mind.
You're gonna make me cry, Rachel. Don't do this.
I hate you so much that it makes me sick and even makes me rhyme. I hate the way you're always right. I hate it when you lie. I hate it when you make me laugh, even worse when you make me cry. I hate it when you're not around and the fact that you didn't call. But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close, not even a little bit, not even at all.
I get goosebumps. It's just a really good moment.
It's a good moment. It is well acted. Well acted moment. And then she has the guitar in her car.
That's the one thing about this movie that it's like, even though she said like, you better not be trying to buy me, that's exactly what he did.
Well, no, I mean,
that's exactly what he did.
Well, she says that you're gonna get me the entire you can't always buy me with musical instruments, and which I thought was funny. And he says some a-hole paid me to take out this great girl, and but I screwed up and fell for her. So it wasn't buying her in the sense of it was just
I don't know, he threatened to buy more.
Yeah, he's like, there's
he
a
was like,
tambourine.
there's tambourine, harmonica, tuba,
But
whatever else you want.
it was just a tool to kind of get to him. Like the real apology was
Joey was a tool.
Him saying that he fell for her. That was where it was really,
Yeah,
more than just the guitar.
But she had a cool car too. Can we talk about how awesome Kat's car is?
Yeah.
Not to dude bro this for a second, but that for her to have that kind of car was like, what? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Win. Yeah. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and it's one of the better ones out of this teen, time period where there were so many teen movies of that era. Mm-hmm. And it's a fun one. I can't believe it's 25 years old. It's crazy.
I don't like hearing that.
Unbelievable.
Can we just pretend it's the 10th anniversary? That'd make me feel a little better. Yeah. But everything about it holds up to me. There's probably some of like the dated, just we're living in this era type stuff, but I don't know. I feel like teens act in a certain way, and whether they're saying skibbity doobity doo, let's go to prom, or that's cap, let's do whatever the phraseology is now, the terminology, you can still find so many things to relate to, and I loved it. I
always say funny saves all, and this is it's funny. It's funny.
Yep. Funny, smart.
Yeah. So it works, and it's a great ensemble, and so I know it's a lot of our listeners. They're one of their favorite rom-coms. So we want to hear what you think. Let us know in the comment section or on Twitter. And Patrick, how can people follow you? They want.
Well, make sure they also write 10 things they hate about chastity. That's what I'm hoping for.
Just that in the
write 10 things you love about these. You can find me on Instagram, Patrick Beatty Reviews. You can find me on Twitter, Pat B Reviews. I don't really go on Twitter that much. It's crazy, and I'm never calling it X. Don't make me do that.
Yeah, I never will. Never.
I'm on Threads. I guess you can check that out too. PatrickBeattyReviews.com, ABC4. See it or skip it. It's on every week, and it's been really fun. I've loved being able to talk about this with you, Rachel. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really, really helps us a lot. And if you are watching YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We just got over 8K subscribers, which is very exciting. And we want to get to that 10K. So please subscribe if you are listening on YouTube, watching on YouTube. And we also have our Patreon group, which is a great way you can support us and you're going to be a part of watch-alongs and other bonuses. It's really worth your while. And we have a merch store, which is a lot of fun. So check that out. And thanks so much, Patrick. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.